Welcome to another episode of Creative Experience. This is season 2, episode 3. Today I have a very special guest, Kyle Warren, who's a former professional golf player and current golf instructor here in the city of Murrieta. He's actually one of the people that I met through the dance instructor class for Mrs. April's. His daughter was in the show as well, and so was mine. And so we kind of met up and then did the whole thing with the dancing. So we had a good time with that, and now he's actually agreed to come on here and talk about golf, which is something that I'm very interested about, only because up until recently I started playing golf a little bit. By the way, just so you know, I am a very sucky player.
Everybody's got to start somewhere, right?
But it's super exciting to kind of get your story, really understand what the game of golf is all about, and learn more about your story and everything else that you do outside of that realm. So, Kyle, super excited to have you on here. Thanks so much for accepting the invitation and being here with me.
Thank you for having me. I love talking about what I do, and I love being able to help people love the game that I love.
That's amazing. So I'm really interested in listening to your story. We were talking off camera about a few things, some things that you kind of mentioned, and I just really want to kind of pass the ball on to you so you can kind of tell me where this passion really comes from.
Well, from a young age, my dad was always a golfer. And from 2 to 3 years old, I would always go to the driving range with my dad and just start hitting golf balls and just being a kid.
Yeah.
Picking up golf balls, throwing them, and doing whatever. And then fast forward to when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was playing soccer, I was playing baseball, playing all the sports growing up as a kid, had good hand-eye coordination. And soccer and baseball were kind of weaning in energy for me.
Yeah.
And so with golf, it's more of an individual sport. So it's all on yourself. Yes, you can blame the weather, you can blame the wind or the golf clubs, but in reality, when you make a golf swing, you're the one that's controlling the outcome, per se. So after I was 11 and 12 years old, my final year in baseball in Major A in Cypress, California, I was like, you know what? Let's just give golf a really good try. So my first ever junior golf tournament, I was 10 years old. I was playing at the City of Industry at Industry Hills Golf Course at 6:30 in the morning. Bright early, first group off, dew on the grass. It was just absolutely epic. The sunrise, everything. And I walked and carried this golf course that goes up and down like a roller coaster. The bag was almost as big as I was. And after that round, I looked at my dad and said, that was just so much fun. And he's like, okay, so you want to do this? I said, let's do this. So I would say right when I was like 9 to 10, 11 years old, I really started getting involved with junior golf. There's a lot of local junior golf tours in the state of California because we have great weather year round, so we're able to play. So I would say by my 8th grade year, I was ranked pretty high up in junior golf in Southern California, Orange County area, and was able to play in multiple national tournaments. And then I came into Los Alamitos High School in 2000 as a freshman. And as a freshman in Orange County, it's kind of unheard of to play varsity. Well, I was fortunate enough to have enough skill to play varsity as a freshman, and I played all 4 years at Los Al High. And through that experience, I was able to go to Hawaii, so at Kapalua on Maui, and represent the state of California as one of the best non-seniors as a sophomore in high school. So that was pretty cool. And I also played many tours, the AJGA, the American Junior Golf Association, which is nationally ranked, which is like the grand poobah of junior golf tours.
How cool.
You play well on that tour, college coaches really kind of know who you are and they can understand that you can travel and play and everything like that. Well, still only being a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid that doesn't really know much about what the real world is really about. So back then, there was kind of the AJGA, the FCWT, and the SCPGA. And so my parents in the year 2000 saw a need for another junior golf tour. So they started a tour called JAGS, Junior Amateur Golf Scholars.
Okay.
So the main important part about JAGS was, yes, you could play golf, but if the better the grades you had, the easier it was for you to play, and it was cheaper, so you got discounted. So if you had straight A's, you had lower prices.
Yeah.
Because junior golf is pretty expensive. When you're going to an AJGA tournament, you're spending airfare, hotel, rental car, practice rounds, food, everything like that. So you're spending $5,000-$6,000 just to go play in a tournament.
Really? Is that expensive?
It's huge.
Yeah.
And so back in the early 2000s, people were second mortgaging their homes, everything like that. And my parents saw this and they're like, wait a second, if we can do this and we have some bigger companies sponsor a couple players that couldn't play, couldn't afford to travel, it was great. And we did 2-day tournaments because anybody can play golf one day, right? Like the show any given Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody can go and show up and win. So that's the beauty and glory in golf is with golf, you have to perform. Tournaments as a pro level are 4 days. You play Thursday, Friday. Say there's 150 players in the tournament.
Okay.
So 150 players, you play Thursday, Friday, they cut to the top 60. So they cut basically a third of the field. So you have to be in the top 60 in order to play the weekend. So if you play the weekend, you technically get a paycheck. So if you don't make the cut, you don't get paid. So you just go into the next tournament. So long story short, with the junior golf tour, the amateurs don't make money. So just want to throw it out there. But what the junior golf tour is that when you had a JAGS bag tag, college coaches knew that you could qualify for school. Because in order to get a JAGS bag tag, you had to have a 3.0 or higher GPA.
Wow. Okay.
And so that way they wouldn't have to manipulate the system to try to say, hey, we get this in, he's really good, and yada, yada, yada. They would know that you could qualify for school. And so with that my parents' tour helped over 5,000 kids get to the college through the game of golf.
How many?
5,000.
Wow, that's a huge amount of individuals that got blessed by just, you guys, your parents building this foundation.
Right. From basically the year 2000 to 2012, before my father got sick. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
We had tournaments pretty much every other weekend during the summertime. I mean, there was the joke. We had staycations in Beaumont. We had staycations in Fresno, staycations in Bakersfield. All around Southern California, we ventured off to Arizona a little bit. And so in Palm Springs. And so it was just kind of, instead of playing travel baseball or travel soccer, we were traveling golfers.
Right.
So we would travel everywhere, get hotels, and we kind of formed a core group there. And we've helped a lot of kids actually that are professionals now play on the PGA. We have a lot of guys that play the PGA Tour. We have girls that are playing the LPGA Tour right now.
Wow.
And we still have contact with these young people. I mean, we're still young. I mean, I'm only 37.
No, yeah.
But the funny thing is like our alumni base is pretty massive considering the small impact that we had, because realistically, when the AJGA saw us and the SCPJ saw us, they saw us gaining momentum. They didn't really like that because we were challenging what they had already established.
Correct.
Right? They thought we were stealing players and everything like that. And the cool thing about my tour, my parents, is we're honest, good, hardworking people.
Of course.
Integrity is very big for us. And so in the world of sports, cheating is an issue.
Of course.
Pretty much a lot of people do it, and a lot of people are good at it and can get away with it. Well, in golf, it's all an individual story, right? You're responsible for what you do and everything like that. So say your group is up there on the green and you're back here, you put the club behind the ball moves. That's technically a penalty. Did anybody else see it? No. Did you see it? Absolutely.
Right.
So you have the good angel and the bad angel, like, wait a second, what did I do? And then ultimately through golf, it's just a reflection of who you are as a person and character. And that's why I really love golf, because I've had to call penalties on myself. I've lost junior golf tournaments because I called penalties on myself.
It's true. It truly comes down to a game of honesty.
Exactly. It's honesty, integrity, and character is what our core values were for our junior golf tour. And it really showed who people really were, because there was kids that were banned from our tour because they were caught cheating. And when I graduated high school in 2004, I was able to come back as a so unquote rules official and be able to watch everything and answer questions and everything like that for kids. And I would be out there just up on a hill, kind of like a cop on the side of the highway, radaring right for the speedster, and be out there just counting strokes and everything like that. And then at the end of the day, I'd look at the scorecard, look at them. And because, I mean, you only have one life to live.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's just, yes, people lie and cheat, but you know what? Be who you are, right? And just really enjoy the fact that we're able to live this life and live it to the best of ability. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know your parents, Cindy and John Warren, they started JAGS. And so you're mentioning that they started it back in 2000. So you were still a youngster at that age.
Correct.
I mean, were you participating through your high school years up until 2004, like you mentioned?
So I was playing the tour, and to have my parents run the tour, that put a lot of pressure on me
I bet.
as a kid. Because I mean, I was like, if I did anything out of place, Kyle did this, Kyle did that. I'm sitting there like, what do I do? So I was very fortunate. I was player of the year for 2 years, in 2002 and 2004. In 2004, the women player of the year was a lady by the name of Lizette Salas, and she's been on the LPGA tour for 10 years now.
Wow.
She's won a couple times out there, played in their top team play, which is the Solheim Cup and everything like that. So our alumni is really, really kind of cool. And we're the little quiet tour that did. And we actually made a big impact because, I mean, we talked to multiple college coaches. I mean, I'm talking hundreds of college coaches out there in the world that would call my mom and dad and say, hey, can you tell me about this kid? And a lot of people don't realize that. And it's just kind of cool to see that connection and everything like that. And that's what kind of got me into coaching. Now, when I graduated high school, I got a golf scholarship to Elon University, North Carolina.
Nice.
So my whole thing was I wanted to get out of California.
So did you get any other scholarships within the state of California?
I had some other offers.
Yeah.
But my mind was already pretty much made up. I was gone. And
Why did you want to leave California? What was the mindset behind that?
I was young and naive.
You just wanted to try something new?
Just wanted to try something new. I thought I was ready for what the real world was going to provide. And
don't we all?
Clearly, it did not work out the way I thought it was going to.
Sometimes it does, though. I mean, sometimes you have to, but you know what? That type of experience, I'm sure, has made you the man that you are today, because sometimes when things don't work out, it's for a reason.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in the Orange County bubble, right?
Yeah.
So there is such thing as the Orange County bubble.
I believe that.
So when I go 3,000 miles away to North Carolina, I'm sitting here like, what's going on here?
Did you realize when you flew and went to North Carolina, like how long did it take you to like, oh crap, like this is the real stuff. This is not exactly what I pictured it to be.
I realized that probably the second day I was on campus after my parents left. I'm sitting there just laying in my dorm room bed. I'm like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like I look at my schedule. I'm like, where do I need to be? It's like you had a blank slate in your brain. You're like, okay, you had the moment of, oh, I'm responsible now.
Yeah.
Like I can't go just, hey, mom, where do I go? Or dad, they're 3,000 miles away. And plus North Carolina, 8:00 in the morning there, it's 5:00 here.
Right. The time difference too.
I kind of use that to my advantage and made my parents a little mad. I would go, hey, good morning. It's 5:00 in the morning. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about time change.
Right.
But it was a great experience. I came in there as a golfer and I learned a lot. And with the college experience, for those that are looking to play at the next level from high school to college, I can tell you that there are a lot of empty promises out there. And until you really, truly get to know the program, it's hard to find a good fit, a good home.
Okay.
And so do your research, go do college visits, go talk to other players, other teams. Like if I was to go through the whole recruiting process again, I would go talk to the basketball coach. I'd go talk to the soccer coach. I'd go talk to the baseball coach.
So you would actually go outside of the
Absolutely.
Really?
Just to get a whole realm of everything, because I was so centrally focused on just golf.
Yeah.
That there's so much of a bigger picture, right? And being a kid from California, North Carolina, I had longer hair back then. You remember the movie Remember the Titans?
Yeah.
Remember Sunshine?
Yeah.
That was my nickname. They called me Sunshine.
Really?
And the girls behind the counter, when I was checking into the dorm, were like, from California? Kyle from California? I'm like, yeah. Do you surf? Do you know any movie stars? There's a stigma being from Southern California.
You know what? I think you're right, because anytime I've gone outside the state and you say California, they automatically assume Hollywood or
Exactly.
something, or LA County, like just LA, period. You know, like, oh yeah, I've heard of Orange County, or, you know, but even the Inland Empire is kind of like a lost gem, you know, out there. Nobody knows about the Inland Empire.
Right.
Now, Temecula, to be honest with you, has been getting a little bit more attraction with, you know, with the wineries and as they continue to grow and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So instead of, you know, I usually say, oh, I'm from Marietta. Yeah, I don't know where that's at. Temecula? You know? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, it's like literally the same area. It's like right there.
Right. It's like, where are you from? Marietta, Temecula Valley.
Yeah.
Oh, Marietta's by Temecula? Yeah, we're just like a stone's throw away. The wineries are 15 minutes from our house.
Exactly.
But see, what's funny about that is most of the Mariettans out here, we really don't go to the wineries. Only when friends and family come into town. Just like when I lived in Orange County, I worked at Disneyland, right? So when I would go work at Disneyland, I'd come home. People are like, why don't you want to go to Disneyland? Well, I just spent 12 hours there. I don't want to go back there.
Right.
But when friends and family came in, we would go.
Yeah.
But we don't really realize what we have here in Southern California. We are awesome. We got the beach. We got golf year round. We got soccer. We got everything at our disposals. We're spoiled.
We're just taking it for granted, I think is what it is.
We do.
Because we know we have it there. So like, oh yeah, we'll go there whenever, but we never end up doing it. And it's so true. It couldn't be farther from, at least for me, myself as well. It's just, it couldn't be farther from the truth. But so you go to North Carolina. Now, mind you, were you going there directly to golf?
Yes. I had a say 25, 30% scholarship.
Okay.
So it's a D1 school, a small D1 school. And what attracted me to that school was that the student teacher ratio. So it had 18 students for one teacher. So you're really getting a good education.
Yeah.
And golf was just the bonus. And that was one thing that my parents said, you're going to college for an education. Golf's just a bonus. That's just a cherry on top to get you to hopefully move on in your career and everything like that. So being a young, 18, 19-year-old kid.
Yeah, of course.
3,000 miles away from home. And it was a new experience. Well, luckily, I kind of not a shy guy. So I got to talk to people and have fun. And I like to fish. I like to do all outdoor activities and everything like that. There were a couple lakes on campus. So it took me about a week or two to establish a routine with school and everything like that. But still, it's missing home and not being able to do this. And I remember going to do my laundry and I'm sitting here. My mom made a cheat sheet she printed out a laminated sheet to all this. And so I'm sitting there just looking at the sheet and a young lady came into the laundry room and she said, do you need help? I said, no, I got this. And she's like, huh? I handed her the sheet. She's like, I'll take care of this. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I'll take care of this. And she introduced herself. And so we hung out and everything like that. And so it was kind of a way that in those 6 months, I grew up so fast.
I bet.
And it really shaped who I am today, because the biggest thing to do in North Carolina, hey, we'd go to Walmart superstores out there. We didn't have those in California at that time.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you had everything from a live fish to a dead fish. I mean, everything in between, like the big old super centers.
Yeah,
and you're like, huh. And then I found my happy place because I was able to drive out to Hatteras, the Outer Banks.
Okay.
So being able to go fish, go hang out there and living through hurricanes and watching alligators swim down the street with flooded streets and lakes. And so it opened my eyes. I took a road trip up to Vermont, New Hampshire. So I drove all the East Coast in 2 days.
Wow.
And you're in California, you drive 4 hours, you're not even out of the state yet.
Yeah.
So I was able to drive up and down the East Coast, and through my golf travels through professional and everything like that, the only state I haven't been to is Alaska.
Really? So you pretty much covered every single state?
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
So I've driven cross country from the beginning of I-10 in Santa Monica all the way to Jacksonville, Florida.
That's crazy.
I've driven all the way up from Florida all the way up to New Hampshire, Vermont, and around into the Dakotas. You name it, it's been an adventure.
Pretty interesting. Now, tell me about, you're in college, you were going through the whole thing of adaptation to, your college life. And then, of course, right, like your parents were telling you, education is important. Golf is just a cherry on top. What happened with, what did you end up, what was your degree at the end of the day?
So at the end of the day, I was majoring in broadcast communications. And Elon had a very good broadcasting school. And it was just a lot of fun. I always want to be like a sports reporter.
Yeah.
Because I know about sports. I played sports. I have good intuition.
You have a good voice too, which is important.
It is nice that my voice just kind of goes.
Yeah.
I don't really.
Broadcaster voice, man.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's so funny when you hear yourself on the radio.
You think so?
The playback is just kind of like, I really sound like that? Just like I'll probably look at this video. I'm like, okay. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So back in North Carolina, I'm there and golf wasn't working out, unfortunately.
Okay.
And so some things happened and I was like, you know what? I'm going to withdraw from my scholarship. And I remember packing my 1994 Toyota Celica GT Black with all my college stuff belongings in there and starting the long road trip back from North Carolina back to Southern California.
Gotcha.
And so I withdrew from my scholarship.
This was after how many?
This was after first semester.
First semester.
After basically 6 months of being back there.
Yeah.
And so that was a road trip. I mean, in a little car packed with...
How long did it take you to make the road trip back?
That's a very good question. I can remember the stops. So I went from Raleigh, North Carolina to Birmingham, Alabama, Birmingham to Dallas, Dallas to El Paso. Now, if you've never driven Interstate 10 coming through from Dallas to El Paso, There is literally nothing in Texas from Dallas to El Paso. I remember talking to my dad, and I'm like, "Where's the convenience store? Where's there's nothing." And it was funny because in West Texas, they still had prisoners out on the ranches out there digging ditches.
Really?
What they called the chain gang.
Oh.
So there was 2 sheriffs on horseback with shotguns and 5 or 6 inmates chained together, and they were just digging ditches.
Wow.
And I'm sitting here just like, I literally pulled over the side of the road and it was like, things are different.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's old school.
Very old school.
So that was a shocking experience. So basically I drove from Dallas to El Paso, and then from El Paso, I drove to Arizona. So I drove to Tempe. I had a friend of mine, she was at ASU. So I stopped there for the evening, and ASU is a fun town.
Yeah.
So I was 18, 19 years old and had some fun, and it was like, oh, okay. So then from then I drove back to Southern California. I remember I got back on, I think I left there on a Friday or something. I got back here on a Tuesday, and I was at Saddleback Junior College because my parents already enrolled me there.
Okay.
And we knew a lot of people there already. So went down there, got my classes, introduced myself to the golf team there. But they were already pretty much mid-season. So it wasn't fair enough for me to just jump on the team and go. So I played with the team a little bit, practiced with the team, but I kind of just got into school. And so the following year, I was fortunate enough I qualified for the team, played with them a couple events, and was starting to get noticed by other schools like UCSD, San Diego State, Monterey Bay, all these California schools that had originally been after me when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so now I had a whole new idea of what really life was. Now I'm 20 years old, 21. I worked at Disneyland for a little bit, did everything like that. So I started really kind of coming to my own. And I chose to go up to Sonoma State University, which is in Northern California, about an hour up past San Francisco.
Okay.
And again, I unfortunately made a wrong decision. I went up there chasing golf. They just won the Division II championships for the NCAA.
Wow.
And so I wanted to go play. And I'll admit I was a little cocky. I was a little older, a little bit better, and just started really I ran my mouth a little bit. It happens. Mm-hmm. And so I gelled with 2 of the guys on the team, but the rest of the team, they didn't like it wasn't really in your face. It was just kind of like, I can go up and beat you.
Yeah.
I was straight up like, I'm going to go out there and beat you. I want your spot on the team. And it didn't really work out, but that's okay. And so I ended up jumping into the communications department at Sonoma State, where we did videos, we did TV, we did radio, KSUN, KSUN radio. We were in a basement, one of the halls, and it was just old school shag carpeting on the walls, writing on the walls from all the previous DJs and everything like that. We had a webcam that was just there, but we couldn't see who was watching us. But when it was blinking, somebody was watching us on live stream. And the cool part about that was I had a show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Monday was sports recap. Wednesday was rock and roll, just kind of get everybody through the middle of the week. And then Friday I was from 7 to 9, and it was just party music to get everybody going.
Yeah.
So this radio station was basically online, so anybody in the world could listen.
Yeah.
And we just had to promote it. So with that, we had people from Japan, China, Russia. I mean, we had people from across the country.
Really?
The world, for that matter. Literally just typing messages to us, play this song. And our cool thing was we didn't play what was on the radio. We played those up-and-coming artists that were like, there's a band that was called Boy Kill Boy back in the day.
Okay.
And so they were like the precursor to Yellow Card.
Oh.
So it was just kind of like seeing the steps and how things came together and everything like that.
More like underground or upcoming.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Right. So it was one of those things where just learning how the real world worked. And so when I transferred up to Sonoma State, it was my junior year in college. I think I was 20 years old. And it just, my eyes were open. My eyes were different, right? And so with that, doing TV, we did a TV show called Fishing with Kyle.
Okay.
I took random people fishing. We had 2 ponds in the back of campus. We had a fishing derby for kids. Kids caught their first fish. I rode into tackle stores and they donated rods and reels and that kind of stuff. And so through that, I was able to really develop who I really was. Like, giving back is what I really love to do in life.
Okay.
And so showing a kid how to put a worm on a hook, throw it out there, watch the bobber go dink, and then they pull up and they're like, there's a little bluegill. They thought it was gold, right?
Right.
And they're like, wow, that was really cool.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So long story short, I didn't play golf at Sonoma State. I was never officially on the team. So that's why I just chose to jump into the communications department and really kind of help them get to where they are now. I don't talk to anybody up there anymore, but I followed up with like 4 or 5 years later with everybody. I graduated college in 2008. So I would say I was involved until about 2011, 2012.
Okay.
So I graduated from Sonoma State in the end of 2008, 2008. And then I'm just like, okay, what do I do? I'm not really playing golf, but I want to play golf. I have options to work in radio. So I dabbled in that a little bit. And you realize in radio, all the money's in selling ads.
Of course, yeah.
It's in marketing, that kind of stuff. Radio DJs, you do it for the love. You do it for just having fun and being able to have the experience of going to concerts, talking to superstar musicians and bands and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so through that, I kind of worked in the radio industry a little bit, got to go to some really cool concerts, and I love John Legend. And so got to go to a couple of his concerts, got to see him play live, little acoustic shows and everything like that.
Oh, cool.
And so being in that world and seeing what people, who they are, because I don't care who you are in the world, you put on your pants the same way.
Yeah.
You drink pretty much the same water we do. You breathe the same air we do.
Yeah.
But there's ways of people how, like starstruck people, like,
of course,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
like you are, like, I'm your biggest fan, and it's flattering at first, right? And then I talked to him for a little bit, and it was just kind of like, well, it's very flattering, but I'm still a normal person,
right?
And so when he said that, I'm like, that's totally true,
yeah.
And so just being able to have that interaction with somebody that was so influential and so that basically changed the music industry just from the way he thought, the way he played music.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool. So from there, I was talking to my mom and dad. I moved back to Southern California.
By the way, the time that you were working at in communications, was that up north or?
That was in Northern California.
That was in North California.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I was up there, I'd say, partly for 2 months after I graduated.
Okay.
And then it was kind of like, yeah, it's not really for me. So I came home back to Southern California, and we had some family friends that lived in Florida that were running a golf course and everything like that. And my dad found a coach out there for me. And so my dad and I jumped in my Chevy Silverado and we drove from Southern California to Jacksonville, Florida.
This was with the idea to, again, go back to following your passion.
Correct. This was the idea to go back to exploring how good a golfer I could be.
Like, just give it your all at this point, like, and see what happens.
Correct. I had already graduated school. I mean, so I went through 3 different schools in 4 years, and I still got my degree on time.
Yeah.
Which was pretty much unheard of. Everybody wants a red shirt and everything like that. So technically speaking, I get my amateur status back. I could go back to college and play 1 more year of college golf.
Oh, really? Okay.
Technically speaking.
Yeah.
But not going to. I love doing what I do and everything. So my mom and I and my dad, we talked about the whole thing about, what do you really want to do? I said, I want to give this a go. I want to give this a try. So moved back to Florida, to Oviedo, Florida, which is right by UCF, about 30 minutes down south of Orlando.
Okay.
And started working with a coach out there at a golf course, and started kind of really getting back in the groove, playing little tournaments and everything like that. And I tried to qualify for the Canadian Tour in 2008. Actually, no, it was a PGA Tour. I went to PGA Tour qualifying school. I went to pre-qualifying, and I didn't make it. I really it was deflating, because you see all these people out there, and I've known people out there that were going out to play that they made it, right? And I missed it by a couple of shots. I'm sitting there like, well, I just got to go work harder.
Yeah.
So I took that to heart, and I started working a little bit. Started really kind of focusing on practicing and kind of narrowing down where I need to work on my game. And
can you if I had to ask, like, how hard or what was the regimen that you were following in order for you to actually continue to improve your game? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, were you literally going every day to the golf course and doing specific things, or going through the 18 holes? Like, what were you doing?
So for me, I've never been what we call in the industry a range rat.
Okay.
So a range rat would be someone that just keeps hitting ball after ball after ball on the driving range, pretty much for hours on end. For me, learning would be to go warm up in the morning, go chip and putt and do that. So I would wake up usually around 6:30, get to the golf course by 6:45 because it's right down the street. Chip and putt till about 8 and warm up and hit balls, get breakfast. And then after breakfast, I'd go play golf. So say I'd be on the golf course by like 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So 9 o'clock in the morning in Florida, it's very humid and muggy in the summertime and everything like that. So you're sweating and you're really kind of working hard. So by say lunchtime, by noon, we called it the nooner thunderstorm. So the thunderstorms would keep circling.
Really?
It was like clockwork. It was like 12:05, 12:10. Thunderstorms would come out, so we just drive in the golf course, drive into the pro shop and hang out there, wait for the 30, 40-minute thunder, lightning, hurricane to come through, and then head back on the golf course. So I would say I was at the golf course from, let's just say round numbers, 7 o'clock in the morning till about 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, you were putting in the whole day's work.
Exactly. And so,
And this was every day?
I would say so. There was some days when you just need to take a personal day, go fishing or go do something just to get your mind off of it. But I was working really hard, and I remember things were just kind of slowing down out there. I was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to kind of come back to Southern California, ready to come back home and just try it out there. So I said my goodbyes in Florida, and I drove from Orlando to San Antonio, Texas in a day.
Oof. Like nonstop?
Nonstop.
Yeah, because that's
long.
you would have to literally drive nonstop to get there in a day.
Right. So luckily through our junior golf organization, we have families that live across the country.
Wow.
So, and through my professional career, I've met so many amazing people that I call extra moms and dads.
Yeah.
I can make a phone call and pretty much have a place to stay anywhere in the country right now.
That's pretty cool.
Which is really, really cool to know that I have that option. So I have a lot of adopted moms and dads in the world. And it's just kind of cool. I still talk to them probably once, twice a month and keep up with them. And I invited them, a couple of them to my wedding 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention that,
Thank
but
you.
Congratulations.
So it's one big family. And what I've learned in 37 years of being on this great earth, it's not who you know, it's who other people know.
Yeah.
It's all about making those relationships. Yeah, you're going to burn a couple of bridges when you're younger because you just don't know any better. But in reality, people want to see you succeed.
Of course.
Yeah, there's going to be naysayers and everything like that. But in life, you stick to those people who support you in positivity. And you actually look at the naysayers like, look, you may not like me, but we got to coexist, right? Let's agree to disagree and just move on.
Correct.
And so moving back, so I drove to San Antonio, Texas, picked up my dad from the airport. We stayed there, and then we drove home. And the moment that really kind of changed for me, this is going to sound completely random. My dad and I are driving from San Antonio to a place called Van Horn, Texas. Just a little low little hotel in Days Inn Hotel. I was a VIP member for Days Inn because of all my traveling. But in the middle of Texas, like going back to Dallas, El Paso, there's nothing there.
Right.
So when you have to use the restroom, luckily we're guys, so Dad went to the back of the car, I went to the front of the car, but looking up into the universe, the sky was alive. Like, I can't describe it to the fact that other than you have to go experience. So
was this middle of the night or?
This was around 11 o'clock at night.
Okay, so dark.
Pitch black.
Yeah.
And I looked up to the sky, and I'm sitting there like, wow. Because you just see the Milky Way. You see the Milky Way, you see shooting stars, you see everything. And at that very moment, I realized what you do in your life is significant. But at the end of the day, we're just a little speck of sand on the beach that you try to influence people and you try to do the best you can. Because as my dad said, I will never forget this, when he was passing away, he said, Kyle, I've lived a good life. I married your mom. So I was born. So you're born, you live, and you die. There's one other thing that's guaranteed in life is taxes.
Yeah.
So you're born, you live, you die, and taxes. Those are 4 things that are guaranteed in life.
Yeah.
Now, what you do between being born and when you die is what kind of solidifies who you are, right? And so at that moment, I was looking at the Milky Way in the sky, and I'm like, okay. And you just got a sense of freeingness. Like, who cares what all people say? Who cares about the naysayers? Go do what you want to do.
Right.
Go chase that dream. Just go for it, right? What do you have to lose? The biggest thing that you can do in life is be afraid to ask a question. Be afraid to ask somebody for advice. What are they going to do? Tell you no? Right. So you go to the next one. You keep asking until someone says yes. Because people want to see people succeed in the vast scheme of history, right? So it was that moment. I'm like, I told my dad, I was like, hey, I want to do the Canadian tour. I want to go try to qualify for the Canadian tour. And he's like, okay, let's do it.
So you had that epiphany literally when you guys just had a stop in the random place in Texas and the sky just like, it's basically like the universe kind of spoke to you at that moment.
Exactly.
Almost. Yeah. And you just had that epiphany and then you were like, I want to do this.
I wanted to give it my absolute gusto, everything I had and more. And I was like, because I knew I had the skill.
Yeah.
I just needed more self-belief in myself.
And
right?
It's so true because sometimes, like you were saying, right, the naysayers kind of like they try to throw you off on like a different path with the comments or whatever they're saying. But at the end of the day, it's just your belief. Whatever you believe is going to carry you through whatever you want to do.
100%. And so,
well, I'm so glad that you had that like little moment there. With just that just realization at that point in time, just in your life.
It was really cool. And I mean, my dad and I connected on so many different levels just from that road trip alone coming back. I left when I left from Sonoma State to Florida, I was one Kyle. But when I came back from Florida, I was a different Kyle.
Yeah.
Like I grew up per se.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still always be a kid at heart, but
yeah.
It started all making sense in a way. I think I was like 22, 23 years old. And it just, when you're 18, 19 years old, you think you know it all.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, I felt the same way at 18.
And you want to rebel, you want to do this, you want to do that. And what's so cool about my job now is I get to influence kids, right? I get to show them the game that I love. I'm teaching anything from a 5, 6-year-old to a 90-year-old woman.
Really?
So, and just by watching them grow and learn the game, like I just had a lesson this morning with two kids, they're brothers. And one of the younger brother, the last couple lessons we've been building to a point where it's just like, it's going to click. And today it clicked for him.
Nice.
So I'm watching him hit this golf shot and he just looks at me and just gives me a thumbs up. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just being able to see that light in somebody else that I had in myself that I can share with other people.
And that's the thing. It's like you're passing the baton now, right?
Right.
Because now you're teaching. And I think teaching other people is one of the best things or the most fulfilling things I think you can do in life, in my opinion, because you're passing on knowledge. You're passing on these things or these skills that, you're teaching them how to do something that you already know or you've been through and guiding them through that process. And it's very, again, I think teachers anywhere are underpaid, because of, think about it from a school standpoint. You send your kids to your school, right? And teachers spend like hours on end throughout the whole year teaching them something, these valuable skills, right? Math and English and all these things. But at the end of the day, you also have people like yourself that are teaching sports, right? And I think the way that it connects with live sports is just such a foundation for like what we're talking about, right? Honest, integrity, character, because it allows you to build off of a game, off of something that you may have a passion and love. And it transitions, that they're transferable skills to your life that you can then apply to anything that you do in outside of that sport, right? So I think it's super commendable what you're doing because, again, it's just something that for you it's a passion that comes from your heart, but now you're passing on that same love and that same passion onto somebody else.
Absolutely. And I look at myself as a playing coach. I played on the Canadian tour. I played various Sunday mini tours throughout the country. I played with the best in the world. I've beaten the best in the world. May not have been tournament play, but we play other games when we have off days or anything like that, where I've been able to meet movie stars. I've been able to teach Major League Baseball players, football players, basketball players. Because at the end of the day, with golf, what do you do when you retire from hockey? You just sit around, do nothing.
Yeah.
You go play golf.
Right.
What do the guys do in spring training for baseball? They have an off day, they go play golf.
Right.
Right? So you see all these viral videos of all these celebrities and everything at Top Golf or anything like that. Mike Trout hitting the ball over the fence or something like that. And you're sitting there like, wait, everybody plays golf?
Yeah.
Everybody from a Fortune CEO 500 company to a janitor to a person who just works randomly for the city or somebody.
Yeah, you name
anybody
it. Anybody.
Anybody plays golf. Everybody plays golf.
Yeah.
Presidents of the United States play golf. I was playing one time at Trump National up in Rancho Palos Verdes. Donald Trump, he was playing by himself. He wanted to play through. He looked up and said, no. So he handed out a couple $100, said, can I play through now? Go right ahead, Mr. Trump. So golf is an even playing field because you can be Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players of all time. He tried to play professional baseball. He succeeded. He played.
Yeah.
Now he tries to play golf. Well, he gets beat.
Yeah.
And it's very humbling because anybody can have their day. Like I've played the golf against Ricky Fowler, local boy here from Marietta.
Yeah.
So I played golf with Ricky Fowler multiple times, and there's times when he cleans my clock, and there's times where I clean his clock, right? But it's just one of those things where life doesn't matter who you are. It's in that very moment when you tee up that golf ball. It's just you and the grass and everybody else. And you just kind of get that tunnel vision focus, and you're like, hey, at the end of the day, it's golf.
Yeah. It just evens up the playing field for anybody who steps on it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's go back to your story. You have the epiphany of like, hey, the universe is talking to you out in the middle of nowhere of Texas. Must be the stars in Texas. What does the saying go?
Everything's brighter in Texas.
It's something like that,
Everything's
right?
bigger in Texas.
I don't know.
Texas has so many different
so many
sayings.
things. But you finally figure out like, I have to believe in myself. I want to do this. So talk to me from there. Because I think this is when you finally go into your Canadian PGA Tour, right?
Correct. So my dad and I get home back to Southern California, and we look up the qualifying school for PGA Tour Canada. Well, it wasn't known as PGA Tour Canada; it's known as the Canadian Tour.
Gotcha.
So this is end of 2009-ish, and it's down in Carlton Oaks in San Diego.
Okay.
In Santee. And so what qualifying school is, you pay X amount of money to play 4 rounds of golf.
Okay.
So they say there's 170 players. So all 170 players get to play all 4 rounds, but they only take the top 22 in ties that would get their card, per se, to go have access to play on that tour.
Gotcha.
For that season.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I remember going down there and not really playing my best golf for the first 3 days. So I'm 4 or 5 shots out of the top. I think it was the top 21 in ties got their cards for their season. And I remember on the last day, the tournament, I was just gonna go play golf, right? Just let go of everything that you're thinking of, and just live in the moment. Live in each golf shot. If you do 100%, 10% commitment at each golf shot, you're leaving nothing on the table.
Right.
I had nothing to lose.
At that point, right?
At that point, you're just sitting there outside looking in, and you're like, you know what? I want to fight for this. And I ended up playing a really good round of golf. I shot, I think, one under or even par. And I was one of the first real groups to finish. And I remember my mom and I and my dad, we were all sitting out on the little balcony or the little table settings where the restaurant was. We were having lunch.
Yeah.
And I looked up the flagpole. The flag started blowing. So the wind started kicking up.
Yeah.
And when the wind kicks up on the golf course, it gets the greens get harder and firmer. So the golf course conditions change. And I was fortunate enough I played in the morning. So the leaders were just basically teeing off by the time I was finishing.
Wow. Okay.
So all those guys that were playing, that had played better than me, were playing later on in the afternoon. So I had an early morning tee time. I played well. I shot even par. Or even par 1 under. I can't remember specifically. So we're having lunch and we're watching hole 18 there. And hole 18's it's a long par 4, about 480 yards into the wind. And it's got water on the left. It's got a tight hitting area. So it's a hard golf hole. So I start watching guys pull it left in the water, block it dead right in the driving range, do this, do that. And I'm sitting there just like, they're making double bogeys. They're making triple bogeys. I'm like, huh. And I start seeing who's coming in and signing their cards, and start kind of putting two together where they are on the leaderboard. So I'm up here and they're down here. So all of a sudden it started going like this. It started teeter-tottering. Like I started moving up spots. I jumped up 2 spots here, go back 1, jump up 3 here. And so I remember where I'm just sitting there just fascinated watching all this stuff, watching these fellow professional golfers go out there and just, it's the pressure, the thought of hitting a bad shot, the negativity comes in. You're like, I don't want to hit in the water. So I block it out to the right, or I do certain things, try to steer the ball. Just watching them go through that. And I had friends out there that were struggling. And the thing about golf is you're not playing against any other player. You're playing against the golf course.
Yeah.
Because you can't control what other players do. And going back to integrity, character, and honor, you never want to wish bad upon a golfer, because the golf gods, there are golf gods out there that will strike you down and make you humble really quickly. And so I remember, this is a little graphic, but I went to the restroom and I'm out there going to the bathroom, and one of the tour officials from the Canadian Tour was in the stall next to me, and, hey, Kyle, you moved up to tie for 21st.
In the stall?
In the stall. And I'm sitting there just like a moment like, no way. He's like, technically speaking, there's no one on the golf course that can move you out of your ranking right now. So basically all the players that were in the top 22 were the only ones left in the golf course. So there was no one that was behind me that could catch up and do everything like that. So I'm sitting here just sitting in the stall, and I'm like, did I just qualify for the Canadian Tour? I think I did.
Yeah.
And so I came out, and my mom and dad, like, I was pretty much crying at this point. Like, are you okay? I said, I just got some interesting information. They're like, really? Well, I said, well, the tour official over there said I'm technically tied for 21st now. And my mom and dad looked at each other like, if you're tied for 21st, there's no playoff. Everybody, and then the moment was like,
they realized,
holy crap.
Yeah.
You just qualified for the Canadian Tour.
Yeah.
And so I think I finished tied for 17th or anything like that. And,
nice.
And the higher you finish, the more tour events you got to play in. So if you come in the top 9, you got the full exempt for the full season. So if you're like in the bottom half field like I still qualified for the tour. I would have to qualify or play my way into a tournament, or if there wasn't enough players that wanted to play the tournament, I would get in.
Gotcha.
So there's like a seniority rank.
Gotcha.
Like the better you play, the higher you up on the money list, and then it would just go down from there.
Got it.
And so I remember I traveled to the first couple tournaments, didn't really have a good start of the season. And I ended up getting hurt. I fractured my wrist. I didn't know it, but I fractured my wrist. So in between tournaments, so now as a full-time professional golfer, there's a tour called the Dakotas Tour, which is in North, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, everything like that. And so when I know I wasn't going to get into a Canadian Tour tournament, I would go to the Dakotas and play just to work on my game and everything like that. So I was playing in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and I remember I started off with a quadruple bogey on the first hole, which is really bad.
Yeah.
So I had 120 yards in, perfect lie in the fairway and everything, and I just bladed over the green. It was so mad. It just was ugly. So then I make quadruple bogey on the first hole. I just drive a 340-yard par 4 the second hole and make birdie. And then the third hole, I hit this ball dead into the trees right in jail. No chance. I had this little opening here. And I said, why not? So I punch cut this 4-iron that just goes right here, right through that little opening. And then all of a sudden I came down and like my wrist I heard a little pop. I'm like, didn't feel good or sound good. But I hit the ball to a foot. So I made birdie. So I went quad birdie. And then I birdied the par 3. I birdied the next one. So in the vast scheme of history, in what is that, four or 5 holes, I'm back to even par.
Right.
Like the quad never even happened.
Right.
So I pop a couple Advil just for a little bit of pain. I'm like, I didn't think anything of it. And I shot 66 for the day. I shot 6 under par for the day after a quadruple bogey on the first hole. Wow. And just ended up having a great day. And came in well for the tournament, made some money, and things were great. And then I went back up to Canada, and I was playing really well. And on like the 7th or 8th hole, I had this, what we call a wiry lie in the grass. So the grass is like this, and the ball's sitting there, and it's on a little bit of a side hill, and I came down and my wrist just popped. I'm like, and I mean, my club just stopped, and my heart stopped. I'm sitting there, and my wrist is just kind of like, I couldn't really make a fist or anything. I'm like,
Yeah, like you knew something was bad.
Something was bad. So I called a rules official over. And at this point, I was like 2 to 3 under par for the round of golf. I was playing a really good round of golf, right? And this round of golf was important because it would make me, if I made the cut and everything, they would put me in a reshuffle and so on and so forth, so I could play more tournaments without having to try to qualify or anything like that. And so I had medical come over, and I called my mom, called dad. We were on speaker, and like I can't play. Like I had to withdraw from the tournament.
Dang.
Oh, it broke my. You go through all the emotions. I mean, you go from wanting to punch your head through a wall and just start crying, and it's tough because in professional sports, there's only so many opportunities you get. And so with a wrist injury in golf, you're sitting there like, is this it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm still young at this point. It's 2010. I'm just thinking to myself like, okay, just praying to God that nothing significantly is wrong. So I ended up withdrawing from the tournament. I drove down to Kansas City. I was seeing a girl in Kansas City and got to see one of the best, what do you call it? A tech for...
not the MRI.
Yeah,
MRI?
it was MRI on my wrist. Yeah, thank you. And he's like, there's 2 hairline fractures. And he's like, here's the good part. You don't need surgery.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't need surgery. He's like, no, but you can't play golf for 6 months.
Oh.
I'm like, that's kind of my job.
Yeah.
What am I? He said, you'll be fine. Just don't play golf for 6 months because you're gonna hurt yourself and you're gonna be done.
Yeah.
At that point. And there was a couple other little issues. I had lower back issues and everything because golf swings, you're twisting and torquing and you're doing things that you're not supposed to do to your body.
Gotcha.
And most people don't think golfers are athletes, but we're walking 6 to 7 miles a day, carrying a golf bag on our back that's 20, 30 pounds. We're using our brain more. Like the hardest thing about golf is 6 inches between your brain because your brain's trying to analyze every single thing. And if you overanalyze things, you try to do too much.
Right.
Like here's an example. When you get in your car to drive, do you think about literally putting it in drive or you just do it?
Just do it.
Right? You look in the rearview mirror, put it in reverse, do whatever you need to do. Well, with golf, you're holding the golf club here, the ball's sitting there, and you got wind blowing, you got this, and you're trying to analyze all this. But if you analyze it for too long, you forget how to swing a golf club. And you forget how to swing a golf club, then the ball just goes wherever it wants to go. You can hit the best shot in your life, but it could hit a sprinkler head and hit a house. You can hit the worst shot in your life and hit a house and bounce back in the fairway, right? It's one of those things where you have not even a split second to really kind of dictate where that golf ball goes. And so we'll fast forward. After 6 months, I get the release to go back and play golf. And so I ask for a medical exemption because I stopped mid-season.
Yeah.
And I asked for a chance to come back and play. And so I was granted a 1 tournament exemption.
Nice.
And so Uplands Golf Course in Victoria, British Columbia will always have a special place in my heart. It is a small little island off of Vancouver, just about an hour ferry ride from Port Angeles from Washington. Great little community, great little golf course. When I showed up at the golf course the first time in 2010, it just had like a Bushwood feel to it, like a Bushwood Country Club, like Caddyshack.
Yeah.
And it just felt everybody was nice. Everybody was having fun. There was food provided for you. I had host housing. I didn't have to worry about a hotel.
Nice.
I had my car with me, so I had everything with me. I had my fishing rod. There were 2 lakes on property that had big trout in them. So I was being able to really kind of relax now. I wasn't really a rookie anymore, per se. I'd grown up a lot. I mean, growing up a lot in golf is huge. I mean, going from graduating college, going to Florida, going back and forth, doing all this stuff. And you really start figuring out relationships are really important in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
So being able to go play in that tournament, I remember I was 2 over par with 4 holes to go. So we teed off on the back 9 that day. So our finishing holes were going to be 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
And number 6 is a 490-yard par 4. It's starting to mist. It's cold. It's that Pacific Northwest weather.
Yeah.
Right? 64 degrees and just misty and not fun.
Right.
So I hit my approach shot onto 6th green to about 15 feet, and I live out for birdie. And I'm like, okay, hey, I made a great par. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the field's bogeying this hole every week because the rough is so thick and long. And
Yeah.
and then the next hole is a par 5. And I remember there was a kid because there was an entrance gate and exit gate for all the patrons to come watch and play golf. And there was a kid and his dad that were standing right there on the tee box. And he looked at his dad. He's like, who are these guys? He said, I don't know, but let's watch them hit a tee shot. So I went up there and hit a great tee shot, just pulled a little left over the bunker, but it was fine. And I look over the kid, and he's just sitting there just in awe. And I mean, I looked at him like I was looking at myself, right? I was watching one of my idols play golf, and he didn't know who I was.
Right.
It doesn't matter who you are. So I reached in my bag and I had a ripped glove. So I signed the glove. I said, what's your name, kid? Signed the glove to him and said, hey, here you go. And he's like, you thought I would have handed the kid $1 million. Like he's sitting there like, no way. Like
you made him feel very special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, and that just kind of gave me, I get goosebumps telling the story because it's just kind of like another freeing moment in life where you're like, this kid never knows who you are. He will never know your first name, but he'll always remember that. Somebody took time out of their day to say hello and say, hey, good luck to you and what you do. Have fun.
Yeah.
Right? So my caddy looked at me. He was a buddy of mine. And he's just like, let's just go have fun. I said, isn't that what we're doing? So I hit my next shot on the green on a par 5. I hit this rocket of a 6-iron from like 240. Just up on the green. So the flag's down here. I'm up here. I have this big 50-foot putt, and I'm looking at this putt. I'm walking up to the green, and there's a little silver thing that was on the green, like a dew of water, like a drop of water.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the angles, and I'm like, if I hit the ball right there with the right speed, it's got the right idea to just
get in there.
Get in the hole.
Yeah.
Right? And my caddy's like, you feel it, do it, right? So I hit the ball went right over that spot, went dead nuts in the hole.
No
from
way.
50 feet.
Wow.
And I give one of these big old tigers like,
Yeah.
Like I'm all like, and everybody's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Like, so, and it's funny because the kid and his dad, they stayed and watched that.
Oh, nice.
And so they're all clapping, they're going nuts. And so now I'm at even par. And the cut's going to be either 1 over even par or 1 under. You don't know where it's going to look.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the weather's changing. People are starting to get tight and do everything like that. So next hole is a 320-yard par 4. Drivable par 4.
Okay.
I chicken out. I hit 3-iron off the tee. I could have hit driver and drove the green, but I was just like, I was so nervous and so just like jittery because I know I have a chance, right? To make the cut. Just to make the cut is a big deal for a golfer. So I hit 3-iron out there. I hit wedge about 10, 15 feet. I lip out for birdie. Great. 1 hole to go. One of the hardest par 3s I've ever played in my life. It's 230 yards uphill to a green that's like a pear shape. So it's like big in the front and very skinny up top.
Okay.
So there's 2 tiers. And so it's just, and the wind's blowing, it's misty and everything like that. And at this very moment, I have adrenaline in my body. My body's shaking.
Yeah.
It's looking for every ounce of something that it could use to just hit this one last golf shot. So it's playing 230 yards. I hit my normal 6-iron about 190, 200 yards.
Okay.
And my caddy's like, what do you want to hit? I said, let's hit 6. He kind of like hesitated for a second. He said, boss, if you want to hit 6, you hit 6. So I grab 6-iron. I flush it just to it lands about a foot in front of the hole and just stops right there.
Get out.
And I mean, this perfect little high tight draw. And as soon as I hit it, I'm like, ooh, it's either going to be really good or it's going to go over the green. Because I, by the grace of God, I just hit it so dead flush, so perfect.
Yeah.
That it was just in that moment, everything worked. I mean, the only thing better, it could have gone in.
Right.
For a hole in one.
Right.
So I hit it to a foot and I'm just like, I'm pretty much hyperventilating at this moment, walking up to the green. I'm like, okay, so there's a leaderboard on the right side of the green and it looks like the cut's going to be +1. And I'm sitting there like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh. And so the funny thing is like the kid and dad were still there. And I made the putt for birdie. And I just all this emotion that I had left in me, I'm just like, yeah. Like, I don't want to yell on the mic, but I mean,
Yeah,
you could have heard me from the United States.
You
I
were
was
in the
yelling.
moment.
I was in the moment.
And this is after 6 months of you not like, having to rest and just because of your injury and everything, right? Like your comeback.
So everything's mounting to this moment.
Wow.
And so I make the putt. I finish it 1 under par for 2 days. Make the cut. I think I came in like top 20 for the tournament. I don't know. Somebody can probably look it up online, but I'm not really worried about it. But what that enabled me to do is I made the reshuffle. So making the reshuffle, I got to play the rest of the year without having to worry about qualifying or anything like that. I automatically got into tournaments.
Gotcha.
And so that freed my whole schedule. So now I'm freewheeling it, right? Yes, we're still paying entry fees. I think each tournament was $400 to play in. Plus, you got to pay for your expenses. So each week you're looking at probably $1,500.
Yeah.
To just break even.
Right.
I think this tournament I made like $1,700. So I'm up to. I don't care. I broke even.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not showing a loss.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, it just kind of was surreal. Like, I went into the locker room and they had Tim Hortons, a big restaurant up in Canada. So like the donut chain, like Dunkin' Donuts, but it's in Canada. It's Timmy Hortons. So they had donuts everywhere. And so I just started, it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon and there's donuts. I'm like, yes. And so I remember, I mean, just all this emotions pouring out of you. Like, you work so hard for this little moment in time to just like a validation stamp.
Yeah.
And so I called my mom, called dad and said, I did it, because it hadn't updated yet on the internet, because they're watching it at home. They're like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And so I called them and it just was a wonderful moment. And from there on, I played the rest of the year. Had a really good tournament up in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, the Canadian Tour Championship. I was 7 under going into the weekend, so I was like 3 or 4 shots off the lead, and I started out par, birdie, eagle, birdie. So at the back of the green on hole like 5, it said Warren up there at 11 or 12 under par, and I'm like, oh crap.
Wow.
So another full experience. It was like, I've never been really in the lead in a big tournament. And so all these people started coming to kind of watch, and so you climb up, your hands get sweaty, your body goes
different experience, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I ended up shooting, I think, even par for the day, and I just get absolutely lapped by the field because, of course, I was playing easy. But I mean, it was just an experience I'll never forget, because you're just like, I was there. And my mom still has the poster of it or a picture of it up on the refrigerator wall. Kyle Warren up the leaderboard, like, there you are. So long story short, my playing career, I played various intermediate tours throughout the country, was able to play a lot of golf, met a lot of people, had a successful career. And then in 2013, everything kind of flipped upside down. I was in Sioux Center, Iowa, just finished a tournament, was having a beer and a burger just because I was hungry.
Yeah.
And my mom calls. She's just calling for an update. So I called her. I said played well, made a little bit of money and everything like that. And she's like, what are you doing tomorrow? I was going to stay up here and hang out for a couple of days and go to the lake, go fishing, do whatever. Well, come home. I'm like, okay. This question mark, right? So we were living in Orange County at the time, Los Alamitos. And so I knew we were moving out here. I kind of knew that they were trying to move. I didn't know exactly what was going on because they didn't want to bother me with all the details. I was focused on playing golf and my career. And so I drove from there to Sioux Falls back home. So Sioux Falls, and I came home. And so I think I got home on a Monday. We moved out to Marietta here on a Wednesday. It was like 113 degrees, just absolutely scorching, miserable. And then that Friday, my mom and myself and my dad, we went down to Outback Steakhouse off of Winchester, and we were having dinner, and Dad said, I have lung cancer. I'm like, huh? I have lung cancer. And I'm like, you hear the word cancer and you're like, what can we do? You hear, your mind goes to places where it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not good.
Right.
So
I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? What's the next step? What do we need to do? So I basically took over the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, because his oncology was back in Los Alamitos. So instead of being 5 minutes away, or an hour and 5 minutes away, 15 to the 91 to the 55 to the 22, and however the freeway would line up with traffic-wise to get him to his chemo treatment and radiation.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's just, when somebody's sick in your family, you still got to pay bills. You still have bills to pay. You can't just quit and everything like that. So my dad was a riverboat commander in Vietnam. My dad was 17 years older than my mom. So he had experienced a lot, right? And so due to service in Vietnam and the Navy, he was exposed to Agent Orange. And so we started, of course, I do my own research, think I know everything. And luckily on the road, I met a lot of doctors, so I stayed with their families. And so I would call them for information.
Yeah.
And they would call me back and everything like that. So my mom and my dad, we all formed a good game plan. So we had a great oncologist, great radiologist, great everything. It was fantastic. So I did the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. Mom did Tuesday and Thursday. I started working at one of the local golf courses around here, just to pick up ends meet because I wasn't playing anymore. Right. Because family first, and you just got to do that. So we did that for 8 months. I mean, just straight driving back and forth. And dad was doing well, everything like that. He was technically declared cancer free, but I mean, he wasn't really, but I mean, it wasn't really, the cancer cells were pretty much gone. So he was on a drug, a maintenance drug, right?
Okay.
And so my parents were going to celebrate the 35th wedding anniversary. So we threw one hell of a party. We had people come from far and wide. We opened our house. People figured out we lived in Marietta now. We weren't back in Orange County.
Yeah.
And it was unreal. It was almost like the best send-off you could ever have, right? Looking at pictures from my dad from 2012 to 2013 to now 2014, you're sitting there like, holy crap. And he was part of the generation, Vietnam veteran, that got spit on when they came home. They got laughed at. They got yelled at. There was no real true American pride at that point after the Vietnam War because of all the politics and all that stuff that doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was the eve before the 27th, and my dad just went downhill quickly that night. Won't go into details, but I mean, I'm sick. It just, everything's going whirlwind, everything like that. So my dad passed away.
Yeah.
And in reality, I took basically a year and a half off of my golf career because family's first, right?
Of course.
And I can always go back to golfing. Well, in the golf world, a year and a half goes by.
A lot of things happen.
A lot of things happen, right? New players come up.
Yeah.
And it's an ever evolving world of change.
Yeah.
And so with that, we're sitting here like, okay, so we stopped our junior golf tour. So we'll go back to JAGS, right? So we stopped doing it when technically my dad was diagnosed at the end of 2012. So my mom and dad only knew, but they didn't want to tell me because I was on the road, obviously. And that I would have been saying like, oh, I'm staying home and whatever. But they wanted me to go play, right? We didn't really know the true extent of what his cancer was back then. And so they stopped doing the tour because my mom couldn't handle it by herself and my dad needed his rest, obviously.
Of course.
And so my mom and I look at each other like after my dad's service and everything like that. And like, how can we honor my dad? So I looked at my mom and like, why don't we just do a charity golf tournament and rebrand from our junior golf tour to something where we give back to the community? Like my dad always, we love doing that.
Yeah.
And so my mom came up with the name. So we kept JAGS, but instead of JAGS just by itself, we said JAGS Gives Back. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because during our junior golf days, when we were on the tour, we gave out scholarships to kids. We helped buy clubs for kids. We helped support kids that couldn't afford to do golf because golf was an expensive sport.
Yeah.
College is expensive, right?
Yeah.
So through various donors and everything, like I think there's a guy by the name of Dennis Polson who played on the PGA Tour, won a couple tournaments and everything like that, but he was a local boy in Costa Mesa. Got in contact with his mom. He donated $5,000 to a scholarship fund, and so that's what kind of kicked us off back in 2000, 2001. So fast forward to 2012, we were able to, where that 5,000 kids come into play, we helped 5,000 kids get to the game of golf, get to college through the game of golf.
Right.
Whether they played college golf or not. And most of our kids got scholarships to D1, D2, and academic scholarships and everything like that. So we decided to have a tournament in honor of my dad. I was working at the Golf Club Ranch, California, where I coach at now.
Yeah.
And we had a tournament there, and we had like 100 players come out.
Wow.
But it was great because we raised like 8-9 grand, but we were able to give a couple people $500, just little things.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that and get involved more in the community. My mom in the Chamber of Commerce, she has her own business, promoting our tour nonprofit and everything like that. And it was kind of catching steam because in the world of golf, charity golf tournaments, they're a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah.
They're every weekend. There's a lot of great 501c3s here in this valley that we love to support. We call JAGS Gives Back a utilitarian organization. We're a 501c3, but if somebody needs help, if some organization needs some money to do something, if we have the funds,
You guys will give it to them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like recently, the Myriad of Firefighters had a demolition derby for burn victims down in San Diego Fair. So we were a sponsor for the car. They needed X amount of money, so we came up with some money and we put them on. We had a sticker on the car. They came in 4th place for a demolition derby.
Wow.
First time they ever did it. It was really freaking cool. So I mean, and our main focuses for our charity are military, police, fire, first responders, scholarships for kids. I think we gave out $10,000 to $12,000 for the scholarships this year.
Wow.
And veterans are very important to us. I also work with a couple other nonprofits, donate my time for a day to go hit golf balls for people. And so through that, we go on what we call diaper runs.
Okay.
We go to like Sam's Club or Costco, and we buy $2,000 to $3,000 worth of diapers, newborn diapers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because diapers are expensive.
They are.
And so I remember doing the diaper run one year, and I have 4 big loads of carts, and I have to go back and forth. So finally someone's helping me. And what are you doing? This is what we do. We give back to expectant mothers of military members. So there's an organization we work with, and so they come pick up all the diapers. They take them to the spot, and boom, all the people can just take as many diapers as they need. Newborn, infant diapers, whatever they need. And it's so cool. And we helped pay a mortgage for a veteran one year. We donate to the firehouses, to shop with a cop, everything like that. Because community here in Murrieta, this is home. Like I just bought a house here in October.
Congrats.
Thank you. So, I mean, house ownership I never thought I'd be able to own a home, but through the grace of God and everything like that, I was able to do that. But this is home.
Yeah.
This is, sorry to say this about Orange County, but we have more genuine friends here in Murrieta, Temecula, in this valley than we do in Orange County.
I think it's a tighter community is what it is.
It is.
It really, people look out for each other, and it really is amazing. Because I originally came, my family and I, we came from LA County and then moved out here, and it's a different vibe.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And people ask me, what is Murrieta, Temecula? I said, we're a bunch of hardworking people. We don't make a lot of money, but what we do, we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can go dirt bike riding, you can horseback riding, you go to wineries, you go fishing, you can go to the beach. We're an hour from everything.
Yeah.
Hour to Big Bear, hour to San Diego, hour and 10 to Orange County because traffic sucks.
Yeah.
But so getting back on JAGS Gives Back, we've been doing our tournaments. We just had ours on June 9th. I think it was the 9th annual. So what are we, 2013? So we technically say we started in 14. I think we started in 15, but whatever. But I think this year we'll cap almost $34,000 for the tournament.
Wow.
And we sold out with 4 weeks to go before the tournament. We had 156 players this year.
That's amazing.
And we had 168 last year. But that's just too many players on the golf course. So we had 156 players and we sold out. And what's cool about it is we still have kids that are graduated college now that are adults with families that we gave scholarships to get them through college. They come back and play now.
That's pretty cool. So it's a full circle thing.
It's a full circle moment,
Yeah.
right? They come back and they say hi, we catch up, we hang out. We may not see them until the next year, but they're
Right.
like, we'll be here to support this every year.
Yeah.
They'll come in from Bakersfield, they'll come in from Utah, they'll come in from Arizona, they'll come in from Texas. But just because my mom and dad made such an impact on their kids,
Absolutely.
on them themselves. I mean, and they're 35, 36, they're like my age,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so giving back to this community, we're not looking for limelight. No one really knows about JAGS Gives Back. Now, select people in the community do because they play our tournament, they support us, they donate and everything like that. But looking at my golf career, right? I coach at Chaparral High School for the women's team. This will be my 3rd full season as a head coach there. I coach full-time as a job at the golf course. I coach everything from 5 to 6 year olds to however old you want to be to swing a golf club.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
I worked at a couple golf courses around here in the county, in the area, and just kind of started playing golf again. Started falling in love back in the game. So basically, my dad passed away in 2014. I ran away from my feelings and went back on the road. Had a horrible season. Brain wasn't there. Emotions weren't there. Emotions were high. I was crying. It was ugly. So I fully started coming back in 2016 and started coaching and started giving lessons and that kind of stuff, and really kind of fell in love with it. And so 2017, family and friends raised some money for me to go back on the road. So I went back to the Dakotas for a little bit and was just kind of like, I was fighting a back injury and I was having an okay season. And I came home from that summer. I'm like, okay, let's see what this coaching gig is all about.
Yeah.
And so really kind of got my boots wet in 2018. It was one of my first full years of coaching. Was working at Temecula Creek Inn as an assistant pro down there, getting to learn the golf industry, because I never really worked in a pro shop.
Of course.
I was always playing, right?
Yeah.
So I got to deal with customers and talking to people, and people were asking me about what my golf game was. And a very good friend of mine, Steve Saunders, who's now the head professional at TCI, we played against each other in pro professional events. So we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And so just being able to make that connection, having fun, and then obviously in 2018, 2019, then COVID shut everything down in 2020. And so as of 2020, I was kind of just jobless and searching for the next thing to do. And so I finally started to say, all right, let's just be a full-time coach.
Yeah.
And try to build my resume and try to do all that stuff and help my mom with the tournaments and everything like that.
Of course.
And so I got involved with Chaparral High School and started working with the women's team as an assistant coach. And then he left and I took over coaching and started building my clientele and working with players, higher handicap players, and improving them in the first couple months. And they're, instead of shooting 105, they're shooting 90, right?
Yeah.
They're dropping scores. And so this past year, I would say, so probably midsummer last year, I joined a group called the Patty Shackers.
Okay.
There's a local pub in town called the Shamrock, which is off of Winchester and everything like that. So one of the owners of that, Paul Little, started a golf society. And so during COVID, people were starting golf societies just to get together to go play golf, just to say, you know what, we can do this. We're stronger together, and we go work with each other and everything like that. Like-minded people doing great things. And so I called Paul up and I said, would you mind if I joined the Patty Shack? Because I had reservations. I'm a pro, right? Everybody knows me as this professional golfer that's played on the Canadian tour and various tours and throughout the country. And there's a stigma with that. Everybody thinks I shoot 66 every day and I'm the best golfer in the world. Golf's a day-by-day basis, right? You can stripe the ball one day and the next day you're like, what the heck's going on? And he's like, would love to. So form a relationship with them, was able to open my clientele list up to 600 new golfers. And so just working with them, it's just been word of mouth, keep going. And then with our charity, JAGS Gives Back, through the community and everything, through all the work my mom does for the community and everything like that.
Of course.
And getting to know people and starting to really connect with people. And it just kind of grows into a love and passion. And I love coaching golf, but I also like selling Christmas trees. So during the Christmas tree season, I sell Christmas trees. I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And selling Christmas trees is such a break because in December, it gets dark at 4:30. So most people,
really soon,
most people don't get off work till 4. So they can't make it to the golf course for golf lessons.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to supplement everything like that. So if you're looking for a Christmas tree, 1924 Vineyard in Fallbrook, come check it out. I'll find the Christmas tree of your dreams.
Kyle's the guy.
I'm your guy. So 1924 Vineyard on Instagram, whatever it is. But no, I look at my life being 37, recently married. Hello, love you, babe. I have a almost 4-year-old daughter, and being able to look full circle. We'll kind of just wrap this whole thing up.
Yeah.
From growing up in Southern California, traveling cross country, playing golf everywhere, getting hurt, going back, dad dying. Oh yeah, I had cancer too. I had thyroid cancer. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So at the end of 2016, I went for a random physical, sidetrack, and my doctor feels my neck, and she's like, "What's that?" I said, "I don't know. You're the doctor. You tell me." She's like, "I don't like that." So I went and got an ultrasound. They found a lump on my thyroid or somewhere right around here.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, not thinking anything of this is early December. And then they want a biopsy on it. So I remember going into this biopsy room at the hospital in Los Alamitos. So we were still back and forth to Los Alamitos because that's where everybody pretty much was.
Yeah.
And so they pulled out this freaking needle that was like this big. And they're like, do you want to watch it go into your neck? I'm like, no. And they only put like local anesthetic there.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there like this, trying to move. And so in between Christmas and New Year's in 2016, I gave myself a present of thyroid cancer.
Oh, God. Yeah. Just
What the hell is thyroid cancer?
right.
I don't know. So through very good, aggressive marketing for the correct doctors and everything, my mom is a very good advocate, obviously, because all she got really left since my dad passed.
Yeah.
And so, so between Christmas and New Year's in 2016, there's thyroid cancer. Okay, so I was on the operation table on Friday the 13th, January 13th. I love horror. I don't like to watch a lot of horror films, but I like Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, and everything like that. I just think it's absolutely, it used to scare the living whatever out of me. Now I just look at it like, that's kind of slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
So Friday the 13th, and everybody's all worried. I'm like, it's the best day in the world. So I go into surgery. They remove my thyroid and a couple lymph nodes and everything like that. And I had to do liquid radiation. So imagine all these people in gowns, full gown gloves and everything, like carrying a lead face with the little thing in there. Drank the liquid Kool-Aid. Didn't glow. I was very reactive, but I didn't glow, unfortunately. But I remember I fought that, and I've been cancer-free since that day pretty much. And I go annual checks and everything like that. So, I mean, and then my mom had cancer. So it's just like the ball just keeps rolling. Life continues to go, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Absolutely.
It's all about experiences and making the best of in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, just meeting you through Dad Dance. Like, I would never thought I'd be on a podcast like this, talking to whoever's going to watch this. I mean, it's just spreading stories and spreading truth and realizing no one's perfect.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's fighting their own battles. I work with military veterans. One day there was a loud boom. Guy shook, froze.
Right.
Had to put my hand on his shoulders. You're okay.
Yeah. PTSD, right?
Right. You're working with me. We're hitting golf balls.
Yeah.
We're good. So, I mean, no matter what happens in this world, try to leave it as a better place. As my dad said, we'll go back. We'll wrap this whole thing up. You're born, you live, you die, and taxes. Those are the 4 things that are guaranteed in life.
Yeah.
What you do in the middle, it's up to you. Now, will people make mistakes? Will people do this? Absolutely. But as long as you're kind to people, no one can ever be angry at a smile. You smile at somebody and they're yelling and screaming at you, you're just smiling like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like the whole mood changes. It flips. Everybody's so quick to just get off the wrong foot and just be like, rah. And nowadays, it's just, you don't know what's going to happen in the world. So say your prayers, kiss your family and friends, call your mom, call your dad, call your grandparents, say you love them every day because tomorrow's not guaranteed.
True that. Yeah.
And just live your life. And if you need golf lessons, look me up.
Well, Kyle, I just want to thank you so much for your time and for, just telling us your story, everything that you know about golf, and of course, all the challenges that you've kind of encountered in life. And again, like you were mentioning, that's why it's called life, right? I mean, it can't be all happy and giggles and all bubbly. We have to go through these things to make, like again, piggybacking on what you said, if what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And at some point, just the message that you're leaving here, I really appreciate it, because kindness, if we spread kindness, it's one of the best things that we can do in our life so that it can continues to carry on anywhere else. And again, you have a great story, and I'm just really thankful to have been able to listen to it. And I hope that the listeners also get, to appreciate the message that you're sending here. So thank you so much for your time and then for being here. And if anybody is interested in learning more about JAGS Gives Back, please reach out to Kyle. Well, can they reach you on Instagram, or how can they reach out to you?
I'm currently in the process of doing a JAGS Gives Back Instagram. I'm not really good with social media. I do have an Instagram page. I'm sure we can link all the bios and everything to it. We can link the website. It's www.jagsgivesback.org. If you want to find out more about our organization and what we do for the local community, and who we support, what charities we give back to, and what we do, and kind of our mission. And if you're ever in the area, I coach at the Golf Club Rancho, California. I'm on the range there. I'm one of the instructors. I'll link my Instagram page to this when this comes out. So send me a DM, let me know anything you can do to help with golf. I would love to do that. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything and just want to sit down and talk, or if anybody just wants to contact me and say, hey, let's go hang out, let's go play around the golf. Let's go, right? We live for today.
Yep,
because tomorrow's not promised.
So true.
I'm going to leave you with this. My goal every day is to make at least 10 people smile a day. Because if you make 10 people smile a day, they take their mind off everything else. So I challenge whoever watches this, go out there and make 10 people smile a day. Because that'll brighten your day, it'll brighten theirs.
Yeah.
Because everybody's fighting battles, right? Just go through life, be positive. We're going to have negative days, but let's turn that frown upside down and let's start having some fun. Let's start living again, America. God, it's political.
It's in your blood.
Oh, we won't go there. That's different topic for a different day.
All right, Kyle, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bud.